Hi everyone, my name is Sarah Gravem, and I will be showing you today a recording of the Marine Disease Outbreaks workshop that we did at the Western Society of Naturalists in 2021. The beginning of the recording was cut off, so I'll just show you a quick picture of your hosts for the workshop, all researchers and scientists at Oregon State, and the mission of PRIMED, which stands for Primary Responders in Marine Emergent Disease, is to detect, monitor, and effectively respond to marine wildlife disease emergencies in a changing ocean. We have different specialties from all aspects of marine disease, including ecology and the environment, epidemiology, mitigation and remediation, so recovery, and those of us that focus on how to run the network, how to coordinate a network, and how to make it effective. The slide that I'm about to show you was cut off a little bit, but we'll go straight into the goals, hosted by Silke Bakuber.
An active network for communication and collaboration among our members. We really want to be able to, in the future, efficiently detect, rapidly respond to, and then effectively monitor and follow up on marine disease emergencies as they occur. To that end, during a marine disease emergency, we want to be able to activate our network rapidly to study the cause or causes of the outbreak, potential consequences of the outbreak, and then to consider management recommendations as well as potential remediation strategies. And then finally, and this is a big focus of our workshop today, we've been working a lot to increase public awareness and opportunities for engagement within our local communities. Next slide, please. There we go. And in addition to our sort of long goals, we summarized them in a really fun catchphrase for PRIMED, which is, with toes on the beach, boots in the tide pools, and fins in the water, we're primed for the future. Because no project is complete, right, without a good, complicated acronym and a catchphrase. And to that end, we've worked on a few other things. We have relaunched and redeveloped our website, created a membership portal for PRIMED members. We've developed our iNaturalist project, which we'll talk more about in a few minutes. And that includes live updating maps for key taxa on our website that are based on that iNaturalist project. Highly recommend that you check them out. We have a mailing list for communicating between members about disease observations and alerts. And we used our talent pool of members to come up with some target species lists for monitoring, with the eventual goal of developing sampling protocols and other protocols that groups can use for rapid, coordinated, and unified response in an emergency event. And for posterity, we're working on our marine disease contingency plan, which is aimed to guide coordinating efforts to document, research, and potentially mitigate future marine wildlife disease emergencies. And that is in prep when it's done, hopefully by the end of this year. It'll be posted to our website, and we're looking for a journal that would be happy to call it home as well. And on for a visual brand, we also have a very snazzy new logo over here on the right. And so you'll see that throughout, as well as featured heavily on our website. And so our goals and agenda for today's workshop are to sort of reconnect with our network, catch up with each other, engage our new members, and really just take some time to get to know each other. We're going to review iNaturalist and introduce our iNat project, Marine Wildlife Health. And then our main goal for today is to loop you all in as a largely academic, research-based audience to our observation network and encourage you to contribute as observers, identifiers, and ambassadors within your own networks, and especially to the public. We want to engage you as experts in the PRIME network and with our activities, and hear from you about integrating PRIME into your monitoring and research, as that's where we gain a ton of our strength as a network. Some of those boots and fins in the water could be yours, and so we'd love to engage you with that process. And so with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Lily to talk about iNaturalist.
Hi, okay, so iNaturalist is a social network where naturalists, community scientists, and researchers can identify plants and animals with photo recognition and the help of experts. It's a great place to connect with other naturalists and share pictures. Those pictures are observations that can become data for scientists to use. Next. The purpose of the Marine Wildlife Health Project is to collect health status data on marine organisms. So observations of both diseased and healthy organisms will be used to create baseline health data that can be used to track new diseases and existing outbreaks. So you can follow along today while I go over that, or watch the primed iNaturalist tutorial for iPhone on YouTube, which I will link in the chat. Okay, next slide. To find projects on iNaturalist, you can either go to the community section on the web or search for them on your phone. The middle screenshot is where to find projects on an iPhone. It's under the More tab at the bottom. And on the far right is an Android where you can find projects in the main menu. To find the primed Marine Wildlife Health Project, search for Marine Wildlife Health. It's important to note that it's not listed under the primed network. So after you've joined the project, you're ready to make observations. Next. So to make an observation, click on the camera icon that says observe, and you'll be given the option to either take a new picture or select pictures from your camera roll. Try taking pictures from a few different angles. This helps us better identify organisms and any presence of disease. So once you've selected your pictures, you'll be taken to a screen where you can add details about your observation. So from this screen, you can specify which organism you observed, when and where you observed it, and which project you'd like to add it to. First, you should identify the organism you observed. So you'll click on the box that says, what did you see? iNaturalist uses photo recognition to bring up a list of suggestions, but you can search for organisms by their scientific or common names. If you aren't sure, that's okay, just go with your best guess. You can learn more about the iNaturalist suggestions by tapping the blue information icon to the right. It's common for people from the iNaturalist community to confirm your identification or make new suggestions. So if I were uploading the observation from the example, I would go with Ladia limpets, a genus, nothing more specific because I'm not very familiar with limpets. Next. So after you identify the organism, you can edit the date, time, and location if needed. These details are usually auto-filled by iNaturalist, but it doesn't hurt to double check and make sure they're correct. So if you aren't sure of the exact time, a rough estimate is totally fine. Below that, you can edit other details like whether or not the organism was captive. However, none of the observations for the Marine Wildlife Health Project should be of captive organisms. Next. So the last step is to add the observation to the project, Marine Wildlife Health. You'll only be given the option to do this after you've joined the project, so please make sure to do that before making observations. Otherwise, you'll need to go in and edit your observations. If you forgot to join first or you're already using iNaturalist, you can add your previous observations to a project just by editing them, which takes you to the details screen. So tap on Project at the bottom of the screen and toggle on Marine Wildlife Health. Next. So you'll then be asked to provide additional details about the organism, which we call health data. Under health status, you will select one of the following: healthy, diseased, non-disease issue, or unknown health. Select healthy if the organism doesn't appear to have any visible abnormalities. Diseased if the organism appears unhealthy due to disease or pathogen. Non-disease issue if the organism looks unhealthy due to a non-disease issue like stress or injury. And unknown if you aren't sure. It's completely fine to select unknown because you can edit it later if you want to. Primed experts or other iNaturalist community members can make suggestions about the health status as well. So those descriptions are found at the top of the health status box. Moving on, under status, you will specify whether or not the organism was alive or dead. And under apparent health, you can type in the text box to let us know about anything else you think is relevant to the health of the organism. Next. So after that, you're ready to submit your observation. Just click done at the top of the details screen and your observation will upload to iNaturalist and the project. And I think I'll hand it over to Katie.
Awesome, thanks, Lily. Okay, so now that we've gone over our designations and sort of like what the categories are that we're looking for in our organisms, we have a little bit of a quiz game for everyone. So here's where it's going to get fun and interactive. And we have a lot of, a big range of people here at WSM. We have tons of experts in diseases, and then we have a lot of, maybe undergrads or people who don't have as much experience. So If you are somebody who's really well versed in all of this stuff, this would be a great thing to take with you and bring back to your networks at home, or to any like public groups that you work with. And in addition, if you are less established in, identifying diseases, this is going to be hopefully some really helpful information. First, I want to go over just like once again, like Lily already said, but our designations fall under alive or dead. And the main categories are healthy, diseased, non-disease issue, and unknown health. There's obviously not a dead and healthy option. That would be hard. And all of these observations are important. So it's not that one is more helpful than the other. They are all really helpful for us. So let's get started. I think we're going to have a poll. Is that ready to go? Okay, cool. So next slide. Okay, so first up, our first example, we have the Okrasar Zester. And if you were out in the field and you saw this and took this photo and we're going to upload it into the iNaturalist project, which of our designations would you use for it? I think we have a poll coming. I'm not sure how to do it though, so Graham.
It should be going. Does everyone see it?
I don't see it, but
We have 6 votes in.
Yeah, I don't see it either.
Interesting.
if you can't see it, let's just go with the chat, I guess.
Interesting. Some folks can see it and some folks can't, because I'm getting answers.
I can't see it either, so let's just go with the chat. If you can't see the poll, just type in what you think. Is it alive or dead, healthy, unhealthy, non-disease issue, something else? Okay, seeing some answers. Sweet. Okay, so I was going to ask to call on a few people to volunteer, but I'm seeing a lot of answers in the chat, so I think I'll just read them. We've got healthy spawning female, healthy alive, alive and healthy, healthy, awesome. So yes, next slide, we'll go to our answer. It is, it's a healthy sea star and it's spawning, like some of you said. Let's see. So if you happen to know what this is, you're very experienced, you can put in that it's healthy, it's spawning, you know exactly what it is. If you're less sure, unknown health is also a great option. So if you were to see this or we're out with a group of people who were less educated about what spawning sea stars look like, unknown health is a great option. And this is because we can always go back and edit. So iNaturalist is a very community-based app. So once an observation has been made, it's encouraged, and I guess like a whole part of the app to go in and give feedback. So this one is alive, healthy, and spawning. Can you go to the next slide? Cool. So our main 2 things from this example were that unknown is an awesome answer. It's always a good choice if you're not 100% sure. And another cool thing about our project is that we can capture other events that aren't necessarily mortality. So if we start to get a ton of spawning observations, that's something that we can look into. Yeah. All right, let's go to our next slide. Okay, our next example, we have a red rock crab. So if you were outside observing and we're submitting this photo, what would you call it? If you can see the poll, vote there. If you can't, drop it in the chat.
I'm thinking that if folks are in the Whova app, then that's why they can't see the polls and that's why it's so random. But if you're in the Zoom, you can. So if you feel like switching, go ahead. But otherwise, you can just put it in the chat, no problem. And KT will call on a volunteer to answer the question.
All right, maybe I'll pick somebody from the chat.
Yeah, pick someone from the chat.
Okay, what about Chris Bauer? Why don't you tell us why you think it's alive and healthy?
Yeah, so I said that, and I just want to say real quick, I am in the Zoom meeting and still, like, I logged in through the Zoom link and still not seeing the poll. So I'm not sure if that's why. It's kind of strange. But anyways, I think that this is an alive and healthy crab because the colors look really vibrant. It looks like it has all of its appendages based on what I can see. And it seems healthy from the angle that we're seeing it at.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks. I think one big thing, like Chris said, is that there's no visible signs of a problem. And that's a great way to know that it's happy and healthy. So if you go to the next slide, we have our answer and a demonstration of how that would look within the Marine Wildlife Health Project. So you can see that it's healthy, status alive or dead is alive, and apparent health note is happy and healthy. So yeah, if we go to the next slide, I think I have a little note. But the one main thing about the healthy organisms is that even though we're trying to catch disease outbreaks, Having tons of healthy observations also helps us establish the baseline so that if something were to happen, we have a record of what species were in which places, what they looked like, relative abundances maybe, and what was going on. So healthy is just as important. All right, next example. Alive or dead, big question, but this one, we have a stellar sea lion. Observation of a molt. Oh, that's a good question. Graven, what do you think about molts?
I think that's a great thing to put in. We're going to get to this in a few minutes, but this app can be used to detect all sorts of events, rather not just diseases. And so you could put something like a non-disease issue in that case, to where, you know, it's not necessarily unhealthy or disease, it's just having an issue.
Okay, cool. Sweet. All right, so let's go back to case number 3. We have this lovely sea lion. So everybody take your vote, put in the chat, alive or dead. And I think it's dead. We can all establish that. So based on this, would you say it's dead, unhealthy because of a disease, dead, some other issue, or health unknown? Okay, cool. How about Corinne, you were first. Do you want to say why you would go with unknown instead of something else?
Sure. I just figured it's unknown since the state of decomposition is a little bit too advanced for us to tell.
Exactly. I think that's what I would do as well. And if we go to the next slide, we have confirmation. It is unknown. It's dead. And our note, dead, but cause of death unknown. That's totally fine. So if we go to the next slide again. Yeah. So this is just sort of an example to show that not every observation is immediately diagnosable, and that is totally okay. So whether or not you truly can't tell, or you just aren't totally sure if it's a disease or not, unknown is always fine. And if somebody were to come in and be able to tell how the sea lion died, they could go in and change the designation and add a note. So unknown is a great answer. Let's go to the last, oh no, second to last example. Okay, so here we have California blue mussels. What do we think here? Alive, dead, and cause of death, or state of health? Okay, seeing a lot of unknown, which maybe I should have restated our options, but if we go to the next slide, this one is a little bit different. So we know that it's dead, but based on, and this will totally depend on your context clues, how much you know, what the site is. Oh, I see one for heat stress. That's, yeah, those are some good answers. So here what we're looking for is dead because of a non-disease issue. Unknown is also totally fine. Like we've been saying, you can always do that. But this one, in this case, was because of the heat wave. So these mussels opened, they all died, mass mortality event, but it wasn't a disease. So totally. What about Christy? How did you know that this is heat stress?
We see this at some of our other sites following big heat events. A lot of them will just be opened up like that.
Perfect. Yeah, so I think this is a really good example of somebody who has a lot of experience is going to be able to make a more educated guess than somebody who doesn't really study mussels. So yeah, we have a note here that the heat wave is probably the cause. And our main point is that the non-disease observations can also help us track mass mortality. So a heat wave is almost as good to know about as a disease outbreak. We can't do much for a heat wave, but it's still really good to know where things are dying and why. Okay, last example, moving on. Okay, so we have eelgrass here, and I know that there's some eelgrass people in the audience. So what would you say here? Alive or dead, disease, non-disease issue, or something else? I can't see the poll, but put it in the chat either way. Just be warned. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
And see the poll, so we'll just yeah, go ahead and put it in the chat if you know.
I was gonna say the risk here is if you respond in the chat, I might call on you. So, okay, let's see. Alive, diseased. Okay, Drew, I'm gonna let you take this one because I think you're probably one of the best resources on this. So why don't you explain what's going on?
Oh,
thanks. Well, I just happen to know because that's what we study are the black lesions that are created by, well, it could be created by several things, but one of them is the pathogen Labyrinthia zosteri. So, I mean, I happen to know what the answer was on this one.
That's why she called on you.
That is.
Yeah. So, and like Ishmael says, looks like there was some wasting on it. Yeah. So people seem to be picking up on that. You know, I think if I, you know, it'll be interesting to see how the stuff looks on the site. If somebody put this in as stressed, that wouldn't be probably a bad or a wrong thing. If you didn't know that it was diseased, at least you're flagging there's something wrong with it. Yeah.
Exactly. Thanks. Okay, if we go to the next slide, you can see that that was totally correct. In this case, we know that there's some signs of eelgrass wasting. So if you know that, you could go with alive and deceased. That would be a great and very specific answer. And if you're also not sure or think maybe it's stress instead of you know, something else, unknown health is a really good alternative. And this way, Drew can go in and say, just kidding, it's a disease. So that's a good thing about iNaturalist is we have a community of people who know.
So Jesse was just asking this question. So the reason I know is the way these black lines run up along the blade. These tend to be the early lesions, but it's taken us 10 years of studying the diagnostics and doing inoculation experiments so that I know that. And so most people wouldn't really be able to say that unambiguously.
Exactly. That is an excellent transition. Thank you to our next point. So adding expert diagnoses to non-expert observations can increase awareness. So if somebody goes to the beach and sees this, they might not know what it is, but because we have so many people that do, especially in this workshop, this is a really, really good way to get the information out there about what people are seeing and hopefully increase people's awareness so that they know to look for it next time. And one last point that could be really useful is if you are in an area and you're worried about potential disease outbreaks, or you want to know what levels are happening around you, you can always go and check out our data to see if it could be helpful for you or if there's something you should be looking out for. So I think that's all I have on our quiz situation. Yeah, and now I think, oh, did you want to say something?
Yeah. I think one thing to remember too is, you know, this is an iterative process and it's not necessarily the goal to have a perfect database of exactly what's happening out there, but more of a warning system. And so if you see a lot of black eelgrass out there, it is an outbreak. The intent is for this app to be able to at least give us a hint that something's wrong and not necessarily be like a diagnostic tool that would require Drew to QA/QC every single image out there, but to just get a barometer of what might be occurring out on the ocean. And I think Danielle has a really good question, and if she wants to say it, that would be great, or I think Andrea is going to cover that in just a second, but I think Danielle, if you want to pose the question to the group, I think you'll set Andrea up really well.
Yeah, thank you. I was curious, going off of what you just said, if the uploaded observations do get quality controlled and reassessed based on the photos we upload, if we put unknown for cause of death or unknown for its alive status as well.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so that's a big reason why we're using iNat, because it does have this continuous iterative nature to it, where anyone who's a part of the project can help collaborate and also just make edits or contact observers and submissions directly. So that way you can say, if someone put unknown, you can hop in and being like, well, I do know what this disease status is of this organism. In addition, for things like if you put disease, but then it's not disease, it's so like with the sea star example where it was spawning, if you accidentally put that as disease, because if you're someone like me who spends more time in the lab than in the field and may not know that, someone else can come in and be like, well, actually this is spawning. And so then it teaches me how to recognize what spawning is and also allows us to make those edits. So anyone who submits observations has the capacity to edit and then also make direct comments to the observers who made these submissions. So that way we can continually correct our data. So that way it is as correct as possible, creating sort of this baseline and allowing us to have all of this data that we can use for ourselves. And then also if you have your own research interests as well, you can use this data for your own basic questions as well. In particular, in addition to this, we also have submissions that just creates like a very nice catalog in which you can start to recognize what you're seeing more frequently, what you're seeing less, and also just keep an idea of how many organisms you have in your community. Sometimes you may not even realize until you keep seeing things over and over again and seeing that those catalogs building up on itself, how diverse some of these fields are that you keep seeing. And then again, if you're someone who's kind of new to the field, you may be learning new species through the help of the network, where someone, if you don't really know the species level of a particular snail, someone can jump in, tell you what that species is, and you start to learn new species as you go along. Also, if you are more of an expert than, for instance, me, you can also share your knowledge with me as well. So it's a really nice way to create like a network where we're collaborating and communicating with each other, creating a really solid data set, and then also learning from each other. So the data we collect allows us as the network to establish a real-time data set of where organisms are located along our coastlines. And then in addition, also understanding what their overall health is. So even if there is no disease present, we still want you to post things and submit things about healthy individuals. So that way we can get a data of healthy individuals, establishing a baseline of what healthy populations should look like. And then this will give us an idea that if we do see an outbreak occur, we know what that baseline is. And so we know whether or not populations are declining or not. If we see more than one disease status flagged within a short period of time, this also creates a flag and indicates to us that there may be an outbreak occurring and that we all as a network need to be more aware and maybe need to have more hands on deck. The more people we get involved, the more eyes we have for these observations, both in the field and then also regulating the iNat project and making edits in those submissions. So this creates a network of expertise, which is all of you to help us connect to one another and allowing the network to work together to monitor these organisms and the populations along our coast.
Okay, and that transitions really well into just my few slides here. Like we mentioned before, of course, this is a workshop open to WSN, but we did open it to the public as well. So we do have like a range of a lot of different types of people here. So I'm just going to give a few examples of activities that would significantly contribute to this network's mission and goals. And so one of them would be just, do you go to the beach for fun or just go to the ocean for fun? You can definitely use the Marine Wildlife Health project as you beachcomb or tide pool or even dive as a field guide. And also like anytime you make any observations or you take any photos, you can contribute to this project. Next slide, please. And then, of course, I'm sure we have a ton of people here that do field work along a coast, right? So if you are one of the people that can do field work, you can likely incorporate this project into your work. So you can use iNaturalist to document species encountered regularly, and you can also document anything strange. Shameless plug for our next workshop. We're planning to talk about how to actively integrate health monitoring into like long-term monitoring research projects. And so, for example, if you see if you're out there and you see species are more abundant than usual, or like when Drew just mentioned that, you know, cryptochitin is washing up on the beach, like those are really important observations that can be put into this project that give us a baseline for like what's going on right in the marine environment. Next slide, please. And then a third group or a third activity would be, do you teach or do you do any type of outreach in the field? Becoming a primed ambassador might be perfect for you. You could definitely, like I mentioned before, you can use this Marine Wildlife Health app and project in your courses and your trips as like field guides and just to show like observed species. And then you can also use the data to create a lesson in your course. So up here on the right is just like a screen grab of our most observed species that we have in the project right now. So you can confirm those identifications when you're in the field. Next slide, please. And then, like I mentioned before, you can use our data. This data, everything on this is fully public. So you can check it out at primenetwork.org/the iNat data. And like we mentioned before, you know, uploads every time new observations go in. It like resets our like schematics on there as well. So you can see our statistics over here on the left of our observations with all like the health data, and then on the right is kind of just like a map of where those observations are coming from. So you can see predominantly West Coast, right, North America. And then you can see that we're also like, there's substantial places where we have a lot of observations and a lot of places where we're missing it too. So we definitely don't have like everybody on every part of the West Coast, right? So we contribute. Next slide, please. And so then just to touch back on what a primed ambassador is, if you're interested in becoming a primed ambassador, it kind of just involves like hosting or helping with outreach events. Some really common, really good ones would be like a BioBlitz events where you bring a lot of people out into the field and you just identify as many species as you possibly can, right? You can also do graduate or undergraduate clubs. You could do museum groups or science centers or other educational organizations. You could also hold virtual iNat trainings, and we could definitely give you our slides that we've just presented today as like a resource for you to use. So yeah, if you're interested in becoming a primed ambassador, let us know. And so I think we're planning to do a poll here, but since that's not working, maybe we could just, oh, I see this one. Does everyone else see this one? Okay, so this is just a poll just to describe yourself based on like all those different groups that I talked about. You know, do you go to the ocean for fun? Do you actually do field work? Are you teaching in the field? Are you doing outreach? Or are you actually interested in becoming a primed ambassador? We just kind of want to get an idea of our group today.
This poll must be working because I'm seeing like 30 votes suddenly. I don't know why the other ones didn't work. And this one's multiple choice, so you can select all of them if you like. Huh, I wonder why it didn't work before. All right, we'll give you a couple more minutes to just answer that. We just like want to get a barometer of what type of people are at this meeting so that we can be more responsive to our audience. All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And I can actually share the results this time, unlike before. Angelina, do you want to go through these?
Yeah, sure. So, wow, 80% of people go to the ocean for fun outside of field work. I'm shocked. So yeah, it looks like 80% say they go to the ocean for fun. 90% say they do field work. No surprise there. 28% say they teach or do some kind of like field trip or outreach in the field. And then 35% say they're interested in using the actual data. So great.
Okay.
Okay, so now we're going to break into groups. And so essentially I asked you that poll question because I wanted to get you thinking about like what could be your role in contributing to this overall network, right? So now we're going to break into groups. And we're going to try to like tackle some questions. We're going to have a different like person that we introduced in the beginning in each breakout room. And so we're just going to kind of facilitate the conversation. Main questions would be, how might you integrate the Marine Wildlife Help iNat project or primed into your future activities? How might your expertise contribute to the Prime network? And then, are you interested in becoming a Prime ambassador?
So in just a moment here, I'm gonna go ahead and split y'all up. So we have 42 participants. So I'm gonna split you into, let's say 6 rooms. And in that room, go over those questions that are on the board. And we're gonna so we end at 2:30. And we want about almost 10 minutes or so for wrap up. So let's stop at like 2:22. I'll bring you back in here. But in your group, please go ahead and talk about these questions that are posed on the board. We've also got in the chat a link to a survey that asks these same questions, which you should fill out during the discussion. As you discuss, like fill it out for yourself and submit it. We're more focused on this discussion than the survey because the survey can be done later. But since we have so many people, we can't all talk at the same time. And then when we get back, we're gonna have one person volunteer to say something interesting that happened during your discussion. All right, I'll see y'all at 222, and I'm gonna make 6 breakout rooms. Go. All right, so obviously we don't have nearly enough time to cover everything here. I hope that wasn't just too rushed for you all, and that it was at least somewhat productive. If you didn't get everything out of your brain, you can go ahead and use the survey that we linked in order to answer those questions with more time to spare. That's not going to close or anything. And I'd love for each group to pick a person, if you haven't already, to report back to the group and at least answer maybe one of the top 2 questions on the discussion board. If you want to advance the slide too, Silka, that would be great. Cool. So those are the 2 questions we want to ask, and if you haven't completed the survey, it's right there. And if you do have to leave, those are our website, our social network handles, and the listserv address, so you can go ahead and copy those down. I'm gonna let Christy Bell's group go first because I know she's got to give a talk in like 11 minutes. So Christy from your group is presenting. Oh, you're on mute. You're on mute, Christy.
Sorry. Yeah, I have to take off because my session's starting at 2:30, but I wasn't sure who in our group was going to present. It wasn't going to be me because I was leaving potentially early.
All right, call on somebody then.
Sorry. Lauren? How about you? Sorry,
Yeah, so,
or Andrea.
oh, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so we brought up a few points. One was in using the project for integrating with students in classes so they can go out and use it, learn how to use the program. Also, the data that's generated can potentially be useful for research as well, trying to identify potential sites or locations that might be useful for projects. And then I just want to highlight something that Rodrigo brought up in terms of maybe more of a need for expertise rather than what we have to offer. But that was, I think if I summarize it correctly, he was talking about whether there's a way to do some sort of deep learning for the program to make recommendations on health status. So it might be a little pie in the sky, but like it recommends, you know, a species identification for you. Is there a similar way that that could happen with photographs that might indicate, you know, this is what this looks like in a species like this, like a lesion or something?
Yeah, like integrating a disease guide into the app.
Yeah.
There are ways to do that. I know the Sea Star Wasting Disease group, that's a separate project, has that. And so we could look into making some guides for common diseases, for example, that would be loadable, I think, from the phone, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
Is that what you?
Those are a couple of things. It was more like if you upload a photo, it recommends like, oh, this might be this thing. So a little more,
Ooh,
but I think just the guide itself might be helpful.
We'd have to get Cal Academy involved for that, I think.
Yeah.
All right, does any other group want to go?
I can launch off of that.
All right, thanks, Lauren.
So we similarly were talking about incorporating this into our classes. Some of us already teach or co-teach some field labs. And one of the folks in our group actually already incorporates this into their classroom where they go around and have students take photos and upload it, which is wonderful. And I similarly have a class that actually has a bunch of photos from a different project, and we'll be reaching out to my students to try to get them to now upload. And I think the idea of using the data in individual projects is also like a really great resource. So yeah, it was mainly what we were touching on.
Great. That brings up another thing. There's a whole, we have a YouTube tutorial on how to upload old photos to the project as well. So you can look on our website for that.
Thanks.
Yeah. All right, next group.
Hi, Sarah. Oh, sorry. It looks like I'm jumping in front of everybody.
Go for it.
Right ahead, Chris. Oh, sorry. So I was in group 3. And we were kind of a mixed group. So people who have maybe been outside of the field or working on fish rather than vertebrates for a minute. So it looks like this could be a point for us to kind of rally behind, get used to, you know, refreshing everything and seeing what the activity is, especially outside of our area. We covered kind of a large swath of area too. So I think that could be interesting. I was interested in uploading a lot of my past data as I move towards more disease-focused work now. So I was looking at maybe how location might be used in this app later. So that could be something that maybe if we could pull sources together, I would like to know more in the future about how location confidence can be used to look at trends along the coast. So maybe some shout outs for, you know, future projects and questions about future uses on our end.
Cool. And one thing is cool about iNat is that one photo or observation can be part of multiple projects. So it's not exclusive. And so you could add a BioBlitz project and an eelgrass project and a marine wildlife health project all at the same time if you wanted to, and prompt people to ask different questions based on those things. We only have another minute. So if you have to go, please go. I don't want to not give people the opportunity to talk. So I'm happy to stay for a little longer, but please head out if you want to go see talks, and I'm sure all of us do. But I'll give anyone else who wants to pipe up the chance. And if you didn't get to talk, please fill out the survey. And that'll help us decide what the next workshop will be about. Thanks all. All right, so if you have anything to say, go for it.
So I know most people are out the door, and it seems like pretty much the things that we covered in our group have already been mentioned, but some additional things that I think would be cool to talk about is that this project could also be maybe used to track invasive species along the West Coast. Someone in our group studies green crabs. And so it is, you know, kind of a cool setup for that. And at the same time, the open access of it makes it, you know, available to, you know, communicate or just talk about different organisms from completely different systems. It's cool that this doesn't just have to be focused on intertidal species, but it can be used for subtidal species, estuarine species, or open ocean species like I usually work in. And so you can get, you know, different expertise in different sort of marine realms for that. So it's really cool.
Cool. Thanks, Chris. Rodrigo has his hand up.
Yeah, there's something that we talk about, Chris Tibel from Pisco and I and others, that probably on the same boat. We go to the field, we see species, and we never get to put them on iNaturalist. Yeah. We don't have the time, or there's not, like, we don't know. This whole thing is amazing. Congratulations, we will love to participate. But at the end of the day, after everything we do, we don't have the time to go extra and put the picture in it. So it'll be nice if you can think of something like a competition, like a contest at the end of the year, which program put more reports or something like that. I don't know. We can go crazy in that. But we go to the field, we have people, we have eyes there. We just never do that step. And I was wondering if we can design something. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, first of all, like I am the same boat. So I use it a lot more to when I'm recreating. And then I also use it if I see something weird. So if you can at least be like, oh, this is odd, and put that up there, then we're detecting the anomaly more than we otherwise would. So it's totally fine. It is what you make it. And it is like meant to be accessible to anyone with any amount of time available, or just know that it exists and join the listserv so that if something is weird, you hear about it, right? I love the idea of a challenge, though. We should think about the challenge. We want to make it health metrics more integrated into like existing monitoring programs too, like thinking about what parts of a Pisco dive survey lend themselves to assessing health as more than just the numbers of animals. But we'd love your help on that part, and that hopefully is a workshop in the future.
Yeah, and the challenge idea came from a fisherman co-op here in Baja. They say, we already reported 1,000 different pictures and Mexico hasn't done anything. When are you going to get your shit together? And so the fishermen are like, you guys, like you do this for a living. Why we're winning? So But even that, like even though I go to the field with all that shame, I still don't post anything on Instagram. It's so bad. I don't know. I'm the worst.
But I bet if you saw a Pycnopodia, you'd put a picture up. Eh? Jesse, do you have a question?
Hi, yeah, I was wondering, I noticed there's a bulk uploader tool. I
Yes.
don't know if that could be something where you could just like, I know cell phones are great because they capture the geolocation. Some cameras also do time, date, and coordinates. If you could just dump that on someone else, if you're taking the photos, that we could maybe have people uploading that information for you, if that would help. Yeah, I was just curious, like, how do you imagine the bulk uploader maybe working?
You mean like for your old photos? How would you? Yeah.
I mean, I noticed there's a template, but yeah, I don't know if there's like a gap that you guys are looking for. How do you envision us getting the most data into this?
Yeah. I mean, I think putting your photos on iNat is the first step, and then like only you as the photo taker can know when and where it happened, if it's not on your phone. But just getting them on there and adding them to the project as like the default would be a first step, and then it can be added later. And then, like I said before, it's not meant to be like a perfectly accurate, pristine database. I mean, if someone really wants to take it and use it to analyze disease, they're going to have to do QC, right? But it's meant to show us when things are weird and give us, you know, that first responder sort of harbinger of an issue approach. And so that said, like maybe your old photos aren't what you should spend your effort on if you don't have the time, but maybe paying attention and using new photos would be a better use of your time. And again, it's everyone's 17th priority or even 117th priority, and we know that. And so we just want to get the word out there so that we know it exists, and so that when something does go wrong, we can act quickly rather than wait a week or a month before you show anyone, you know?
Yeah, I love the timeliness. Thank you for pointing that out again.
Yeah. Anyone else have anything to say? All right.
Have a good weekend. See you later, guys.
Have a good time at the meeting, y'all. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Cool. Good job, guys. Killed it. That went well.
I saved the chat.
A lot of people.
Good job, everyone. I'm gonna bow out now. Thank you so much.
Yeah, bye, Jesse. Yeah, I mean, I wish we had a little more time at the end, but how are the breakouts? I couldn't even join one. It wouldn't let me.
My breakout was good. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was mostly Jenna asking people questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it super rushed or was it okay?
It didn't feel rushed to me.
Okay. Good. How about you guys?
You didn't have time to get to all the questions, but we still had a good conversation.
That's good. I mean, that's why we did the survey, so that it didn't have to all be done in that amount of time.
We did more of like a slightly more general introduction type of like, okay, who are you, right from how is this useful for you, or like what aspect of it is good. And we got some good responses. One person was asking about parasites, which we haven't talked about, but that could be fun and cool and useful.
I mean, yeah, I think that's a subset of disease, right?
Sort
like
of.
just because they're big
related.
doesn't mean they're not a disease or bigger than microscopic.
Yeah, I imagine like pathogen. I don't know, but yeah, they were just wondering if that's included. And
I think that's
probably.
totally included, but I do agree that we probably are using too narrow of wording. Our acronym makes us constrained.
Primary responders and marine mortality.
Disasters.
Yep.
I like some of the ideas that came out of it, though. Like I highlighted a few about like having that contest, adding invasive species to it, and just like also incorporating a disease guide. Because I
Yeah.
was under the understanding that iNat, the more photos we upload, the more it's able to actually recognize the species.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if it's already kind of in place, but then you can then subdivide it as like, this is what like a wasting sea star is compared to like a healthy sea star. So it can have that learning process.
I think that's totally, if we were gonna build something like that, the way we start is starting to upload stuff that's diseased and designating it so, right?
Yeah.
Like we have to teach the machine first. So I could, conceivably, it could be something that could happen at some point as
I think
technology.
we would need a lot more photos for that though.
Yeah, you need a bajillion.
It would be like thousands probably before it's accurate.
But like sea star disease has thousands, like there's so many on there, and you could conceivably train it to do that based on for sea stars. Maybe not for something tiny because your photos aren't so good, but
yeah.
I don't know. That's cool. I would not want to be in charge of that.
I think the contest is feasible.
Yes.
We can make some really sweet like t-shirts, stickers. Winning team gets to advertise for us.
The primed team. All right, I know y'all will probably want to go see talks, and they're already started. So go ahead. I'll see you tonight at 6.
Wait, at 6?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Why?
Well, trivia is from 7 to 9, and I committed to going to trivia.
I know. We were trying to make Laura was looking at the schedule, and other things end at 6. And there's a break from 6 to 7.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, I can go from 6 to 7, but I have to go
right down the street from your house, Katie. It's right down the street.
I know.
Can you do trivia from the bar?
Maybe. Potentially, yeah. I'd have to be like on my computer though.
Bring it.
I guess I could bring it and we could all do trivia. Like you guys could all be on my team. Is that cheating?
Like Trophy Cascade.
Is that cheating? I think it's fine. Okay, maybe I'll bring my laptop and we can all do trivia.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay.
All right. See y'all.
See you guys later.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.